In your book, you offer a crash course on media discernment, and I think this is worthwhile cashing out in the podcast.
Yeah. Well, our problems go very deep in the United States, and part of it is how we access information about society. I've already talked about the problem of ignorance. People are not taught the history of philosophy, the history of socialism, and so on. So they're, you might say, well informed because they have factoids coming at them constantly, and they're very agitated about the information they have, but are they really knowledgeable about what's going on in history and what is happening today? So I've been very influenced by Neil Postman, the media critic who wrote one of the best books I've ever read called Amusing Ourselves to Death. I just recommended that to a young friend of mine and he instantly read it. I was so happy. And he said, this is so relevant to what's going on. So whenever we are receiving information through a medium, we have to ask, what can that medium do well and what does it not do well? So let's say Twitter. Well, Twitter will tell you someone's opinion right away. You have it instantly. But it usually doesn't go very deep. You only have a certain number of characters to communicate it. Any visual medium, television, films, whatever it is, will privilege the image over the word. Now that's fine for films, and that can be significant and helpful to have the image. Sometimes the image will distract from the rational issues at hand. People are overwhelmed or humiliated by the image, and they're not thinking through facts, logic, and they're not thinking philosophically about things. So the example I use is the George Floyd video, the 9 minutes of him being arrested and him dying under the knee of Derek Chauvin. What set off the riots was not a measured reflection on how a policeman was dealing with a black man resisting arrest. It was, I can't breathe, and a white man has his knee on the neck of a black man. And this supposedly symbolized and encapsulated the whole American system, right? A white man, a white police officer having his knee on the back of a black man who dies. And that narrative, as we use that word all the time, that narrative literally set America on fire. Now, I'm not defending what Derek Chauvin did. However, we have to look at the deeper facts here. George Floyd was resisting arrest. He was high on fentanyl. He was crying out, I can't breathe, before they used the compliance hold. An ambulance had been called. This is not a rank case of a white man hating a black man and killing him. In fact, the prosecution, given the data I had when I wrote the book, the prosecution wasn't even claiming racism. They're just claiming police misconduct, and he was convicted of some form of murder, right? But the whole narrative was that these few minutes encapsulate and crystallize what America is all about. And so they put it into this larger picture of police brutality, systemic racism. And I'd say, wait a minute, we've got some minutes of video. We don't have the backstory. What about the facts about white on black police violence? What are they? Can we show from the evidence that this is a systemic, terrible problem? So bad that you have to burn down police stations and say, let's defund the police. And the answer to that is emphatically not. I cite Heather McDonald's book, The War on Cops. I cite Wilfred Riley's book, Hate Crime Hoax. But you see, the image, and especially of an image of a man dying, is so powerful that it eclipses any rational consideration of the background evidence. So if we're going to be wise as Christians and seeking the welfare of the city where God has placed us, we need to know the facts on the ground. And we don't want to be reactionary to this. You've got to do some research here. So that's why I wrote the book. I wanted to give people more background, more history, more facts, more logic, put it in a biblical framework. The book's about 250 pages and 500 footnotes. So as J.P. Moreland said in his endorsement, if you disagree with what Doug says, then present a better viewpoint. Calling me names is not an argument. That's just an ad hominem fallacy.
If you're not horrified, you should be, because the relentless assaults on sanity and common sense by woke madness have now reached a fevered pitch. That's why the upcoming special edition of the Christian Research Journal tackles the dangerous social and mental disease of wokeism head on. To receive your copy, visit equip.org. That's equip.org, or call 888-7000-CRI. That's 888-7000-CRI.